Howdy everyone, welcome back to Scooter Geek Books. I'm Ben again. This is episode 3. I'm going to title this one Ride Your Own Ride. Which if those of you who have any experience with motorcycles and scooters might be familiar with that concept. That's how I learned of it. And it's kind of a statement of being true to yourself and if you're not a sports bike racer, don't try to be a sports bike racer. People give you a hard time about lack of displacement. If you enjoy your ride, enjoy your ride. There's people out there who like riding Harleys. There's people out there who like riding dirt bikes. There's people out there who like riding, whatever. But it's all those different kind of genres of motorcyclists are, it's the rides are different. Don't try and keep up with somebody who's not riding your ride. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, just recently did my thoughts dovetail Ride Your Own Ride with some other topics that I've been thinking about and wanting to talk about today. I realize it's been a little while since my last video. Been a lot going on in my personal life and in the Amazon book selling community that have been made me think more about what my business model is and what I'm trying to do with this project, what I want to get out of it, and especially with changes and glitches that have been going on with Amazon. I mean, there have been a lot of people doing that kind of re-examination and talking about it, and pardon me, that has made me realize that my perspective, my goals are sometimes a little off from the norm, sometimes way off, and so I think that this episode we'll discuss a little bit what the norm is and where I differ and why. I've talked before about how I want to, I want to ride a scooter through New England and hunt books and hunt good books, good margin books, but just interesting books too. I want to be successful enough at that to keep doing it and to be able to expand the range in which I do that. We'll get into a little bit more detail about that as we go. When I talk about expanding the range, initially I just want to get out, further out to town, other towns and villages around me, within, like to be, if I get to the point where I'm doing this full time, one day drive out an hour north and hit all sorts of stores and sources there, and the next day hit out an hour west, and that's just and that's just in the next year or two over the 5-year plan. I mean, I trips into Vermont, Massachusetts. I'm sure there's a lot of really prime book sourcing areas within a few hours of me. I want to find them. And I dream of doing even more, hundreds and hundreds of mile scooter trips. When you get out, and even beyond that, into thousands of miles. But getting into thousands of miles is getting outside of my 5-year plan and my 5+ to 10-year plan. we're not going to get into much detail about that. At least not until I, a couple years in. But yeah, hopefully that's my ride. That's what I'm looking to do. So rewinding it back, look at what is maybe more of the norm for YouTube book selling channels, especially ones that are doing Amazon FBA. A lot of those folks started out similar to me, just hitting thrift stores and library sales, etc. And a lot of them will discuss after they get to a certain level of success, they hit a choke point on their sourcing volume. There's only so many times you can hit the Savers and Goodwill a half hour from your house and pull good books. Maybe you can do it once a week, maybe you can do it once a month. You're not going to be doing very well doing it a couple times a week. You're just the good books don't flow in that much. So frequently folks will, it's America, we're living in end-stage capitalism, business has got to grow. So when you kind of depleted your sourcing and you're still trying to scale up, there's a few different strategies you can use. A lot of folks will do buying pallets, or what in the industry we call gaylords, which is like a box on a pallet and just full of like discarded books and media. And I have no desire to do that. I don't have the space for it. I guess once I get rid of some books, that's not appealing to me at this time. And I know, I feel like that's just paying $500 for somebody to just swipe several shelves worth of stuff off of Goodwill and send it to you. And I go through enough Goodwills that I'd rather cherry pick the Goodwill than have it sent to me, cherry pick it, and then have to deal with the 90% of the books that aren't really worth anything. That's not fun. It's not interesting. I'm not interested. And folks who do that and other means of bulk sourcing frequently get to a point where another choke point they experience beyond having enough volume flowing through is that they need more space. So then you got to rent a warehouse to process the pallets, and you also a lot of times get to the point where you need to hire employees because you're working on such volume. And yeah, when you're at that point, then you can shrink your margins down. You can be selling books that maybe sell quick and only give you $1 profit or so. If you sell 1,000 of those a week, that's $1,000 in your back pocket. But there's a lot of pain points to dealing with that much volume that I don't want to deal with. I have no desire to do that. Another avenue that people do is online arbitrage, where you're using various software like Bookmine, which is really interesting software, to monitor book-selling platforms, specifically eBay and Amazon, for books that are really undervalued for their, really low priced for what their historic value is, and buy those, have them sent to you, or a lot of these folks who do that don't even physically handle the books; they have it sent to a prep center that then sends it to Amazon. I'm not interested in the hands-off version of that, where you send it to the prep center sends it to Amazon, and then when it sells, you get a check. But I am interested in, I just in the last couple months that I've been doing this, that I have found some books that I've already set up alerts on, because they're books I know that their value is not understood by most people, and most people going through a book collection would just send them right to the thrift store. So I'm monitoring for those books. I see them come up for $5. I know it's a $125 book. Yeah, I'll pay $5 on eBay and another $5 to have it shipped to me. Sure. So that's something I might get into a little bit over time, but it's not immediate. And then there's also, obviously a lot of the booksellers on YouTube are also using YouTube to expand their business. And I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I am doing a YouTube channel. I'd like to see it have some success. I don't want to chase a bunch, I don't want to spend hours every week on optimizing the YouTube channel. I'd rather it kind of be its own thing organically grow. I'm thinking of this channel more as kind of a video zine. Can we call that a Vizine? Sorry, I am a dad. I do get, I'm not allowed to make dad jokes. But yeah, well, I'm not opposed to making, this channel becoming another income stream. I'm not prioritizing that, and I don't want it to cloud my main vision. Or, as I said earlier, that's not my ride. Pure greed, not even greed, but just chasing a buck is not my vision. Chasing a book is more my vision. And I have almost entirely just talked about books so far in the videos I've released, but that's not my intention of where I want this to go. I would like to just live up to the name, Scooter Geek Books. I want, I'd like the channel to be 1/3 scooter content, 1/3 kind of general geekiness and nerddom that appeals to me, and 1/3 books. It's probably going to take a while before that balance hits, but that's currently my vision of where I'd like to see this go. Another angle that kind of dovetails with the YouTube as an income stream for a bookseller is a lot of those the folks who have successful YouTube channels on this niche topic branch into coaching, mentoring, building their own communities and discords. Currently, I don't have any desire to do that. And I'm not. There's nothing wrong with any of these strategies for scaling up and expanding a simple book selling business. They're just not my ride. Just not what I want to do. Another interesting one is, it seems like there are so many of these booksellers that they get to a certain point of success, and the next step is building apps. Which, nothing against that. You fill the right niche like coaching. It's not only a good way to have an alternate income stream. You're also giving back to the community. I use Go2lister, which was developed by Avery Romer, and when somebody in your industry finds a need that can be solved with software that really works, well, you use that software. I mentioned Bookmine earlier. I'm using the free version of Bookmine right now, and mostly just to explore and learn more about the market. But I do see a day where I will subscribe, use the paid version, and get a lot of value out of it. But yeah, I don't have any desire to create any apps. I don't. Maybe in a few years I will, come up with something that I realize, like, oh, if I had an app that could automate this, that would be, and then I might look into it. But right now, that's not a direction I would want to grow into. No desire to do that. So when you go through, these book selling coaches, one other growth technique that they mention is expanding the range of your sourcing. Hitting library sales besides just the one in your town next, your town and the town next to you. Drive a few hours to library sales. Go to thrift stores more than a half hour away. Now, that I am interested in. I think we kind of made that clear before. And so now maybe we'll dovetail in, because what is, sure, you can see a geek on a scooter, and sure, you can see a geek obsessed with books, but how, beyond the common thread of geekdom, what ties scooters and books together in my head. And I've mentioned it in previous videos, but I haven't gone into detail, because to me it's obvious, but I imagine to anybody else it's not obvious at all. It's, that the combining factor is me, and, the weirdo with the beardo. I mentioned previously that I want to do the scooter cannonball run in 2027. Not just want to, that I'm gonna do it. I've made my mind up, and I'm working towards that goal. That doing that successfully, just successfully meaning just completing it, requires training. I need to get used to doing 300, 400, 500 miles a day on a scooter. And if I'm going to be logging mileage like that, then it's a natural opportunity to expand my book scouting deeper into New England, upstate New York, northern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania. On the right scooter, I'm all about that. I want to do scoot scouting. That just sounds like fun to me. And to be fair, I'm not gonna this spring hop on a scooter and start doing 300, 400, 500 mile trips to thrift stores and library sales. I'm gonna work up to it. I've got a year and a half till the next scooter cannonball. But yeah, I'll unpack this more. But my business model is scooter book scouting. And when you tie the YouTube channel into it, it's also scooter adventures. Now, I'm sure a lot of folks, even folks who are motorcyclists, are like, what's a scooter adventure? That's not a thing. And it is a thing. The exploding popularity of the Scooter Cannonball Run. This was something it started in 2004. Every 2 years, the first 6, 7, you were talking like a dozen riders. No more than 50 riders, and the last year it was like almost 300 signed up. every year over the past like 8 years or so, it's just really expanding. So there are people who are interested in like long haul scooter trips. I mentioned Peter Spiegel's "I See by My Outfit" previously. That's another example. There's a lot of other examples on YouTube. Scooter adventurers. One I highly recommend is the Wandering Wasp. A young lady from Singapore who has done a lot of adventuring in Southeast Asia, and even did a trip on a Vespa P150, rode from Singapore to the Czech Republic, going through 25 countries, including Iran, as a young woman in her 20s riding a 150cc scooter through Iran. Like, that's adventure. I put that up there with anything Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman have done. Like, that's cool stuff, man. Like I say, I'm not doing anything like that in the next 5 years. 5 to 10 years. I do have some concepts of a plan of some adventures I'd like to do, but they're too amorphous to really talk about yet. I mean, I love road trips and adventures. I love Jack Kerouac. I love all the Ewan McGregor, Charlie Boorman Long Way series. So yeah, my goal is create synergy between book selling, scooting, and long-range scooting adventures, to leverage those points together and do these things. Now that's my business model, and it's not a business model that I don't know if it would work for anybody else. I'm not advising it. I'm not recommending it. It's a gamble. I think there are some reasons why it's a smart gamble for me, but and I'm not a gambler. I don't play the lotto. I don't go to casinos. I don't even play lots of games. I certainly don't like taking financial risks. I have two teenage girls. One will be in college next year. One will be college age in just a couple more years. So why am I doubling down on this risk? Part of it is I live in a target-rich environment. I live in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Within an hour of me are Westchester, Litchfield, Dutchess counties. New Haven's an hour away. I think those are all areas that would be target-rich environments for books. You have like a world center of publishing in New York City. A lot of people in this area who work in the publishing industry or are tangentially connected somehow. You just would not believe the quality of stuff I see in thrift stores around me. The area is also very overeducated by national standards. So yeah, our thrift stores are great here for finding books. I find, I don't have one right at hand, but I find, maybe I do. No, I don't. I find advanced reading copies almost every week, which are the books that say they're not for sale. They send out to bookstores and critics and stuff to familiarize themselves with the book before it's published. I find those a lot. Um, I find books that are currently on the New York Times best-selling list, like still on it, still like in the top 10. I find them at Savers. Probably at least once a month. I'm 20 minutes away from Easton Press in Norwalk. I don't find Easton Press copies all the time, but I find them with some regularity, and sometimes I'll find like 3 or 4 in the same trip. These are leather bound, gilded edges, built-in ribbons, and listen to this. This thing's crisp. This is new. Nobody ever read that. Pick up that for $5 all day long. I'm doing that all day long. So yeah, part of that, I just found a book. Pardon me. Scouting Today, that kind of talks about gets into the synergies that I'm talking about. It's Ikaji, Japanese secret to finding purpose and happiness in everyday life. It's finding what you can be paid for, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you love. Finding what's at the center of that Venn diagram. You might have seen. I've seen that on Facebook as a meme. But yeah, that's kind of what my goal is here. This is a nice book. This is. I think we're gonna talk a little bit about conditioning later on in this video. This is like new. Like that Eastern Press book. It doesn't even. It's stiff. It has not been read. And there's no way I'm listing that as good. That's a new copy. Anyway, I'm digressing. But yeah, I think if I have a late model Honda Helix with a top case, I could probably, that setup could carry about 5 grocery bags of books. And that's, cherry picking, really hunting for the really valuable books. Not the thin margin. You pay $1 and you get $1 or $2 profit from if you sell it on Amazon. I'm talking you pay, maybe even you pay a little more. Maybe you buy a $5 book. This is you buy a $5 Eastern Press. Eastern Press books you can sell on, depending on the title, but I've seen them go for like $125. And you're gonna get profit from Amazon, depending on how long it takes to sell. At least $30-$40. If it sells fast, more than that. That's cherry picking. And that's not book flipping. That's book selling. That's. And I'll get in. I may not fully get into the differences. The differences I see between book flipping and book selling in this video, but I will at some point. I also another way in which I can foresee expanding my scale is to start hitting estate sales, and I think that again will require a certain amount of increased discipline and professionalism. I'm sure not whipping out a scanner at an estate sale. Something, early on I watched a Peter Valley video where he mentioned, about not scanning at estate sales, and that struck me as a truism. I just can't see doing that. I'm an old punk rocker, and I like crass, but I ain't that crass. mentioning Peter Valley, he also frequently talk about book scouting Jedi mode, um, which I think he's kind of referencing, like, the first Star Wars, where Luke turns off his targeting computer, because this little scanner is your targeting computer. Um, full Jedi Master book scouter doesn't need this. Their scanner is their eyes. You turn the targeting computer off and just judge your books by your gut, and that gut can be trained, and it is trained. The more you do it, even if you still use the scanner as a crutch, which I do, and I don't foresee me giving up anytime soon. I'm not ready to go jumping into estate sales right now. But the more you do it, the more you learn, and the more your eye develops. And that's one of the things that I personally love about book scouting and book selling, is that it's a never-ending opportunity to learn, discover, and explore. If you're doing it right, there's so many doors you open to learn new things about different genres and different interests, and aspects of history and cultures, and it's an open door. It's an open door to thousands of open doors. Like, it's I don't get that geeky, but so like I say, this my business model is pretty unique, and I don't know if it would work for anybody besides me, but I strongly suspect that it'll work well for me. We're just starting out. A lot of things I'm doing at this point are experiments, and so I'm not here to tell you the one true way to sell books, but I will let you know, how my experiments work, what works, why I think it worked, what doesn't work, and why I think it didn't work. And if I find out that that in the long run I should be doing what everybody else is doing, just scanning, marking them good or acceptable, and having a generic condition note, I will certainly eat crow and let you know. But yeah, currently my business model is kind of there's aspects of it the opposite of the YouTube coaches. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that some of these things I don't think are right for me. That's not my ride. As I ride my ride, if I overshoot the radius on the turn and wipe out, I will let you know. And what I'm looking at, fortunately I've got the family library, so it's not a lot of capital outlay. I am spending more on my weekly thrift store trips than I used to. I am sourcing more, but not crazy money. My wife's not yelling at me about how much I'm spending yet, so I think I'm doing okay. And yeah, the only folks right now I need to get to believe in this business plan are my wife and kids, and so far they're behind me. I think they get it. And they know me well enough to know how this is kind of just a natural progression for me. I do have finally have books on Amazon's shelf. Sent out my 4th shipment a couple days ago. Send out my 5th in a couple more days. Putting it together right now. I think I have a little over 200 books on the shelf with Amazon, and another couple hundred, crossing the country or being processed, put on the shelves. Kind of shooting for a goal of one shipment a week of 75 to 100 books. I'd also like to do one YouTube video a week, which I've missed the ball on the last couple of weeks, but keep going. So I mentioned earlier there's been some weird glitches going on with Amazon. Um, the listing books has become more challenging. Uh, so a big part of selling books fulfilled by Amazon is shooting to get what we call the buy box, or Amazon calls the featured offer. So if you go to a book's web page, there's a box that's basically a buy it now with whatever they're selling the new copy for. And if you scroll down a little bit, it's like save with used, and there's a price, and whether either Prime or how much the shipping is going to be if it's not Prime. And then if you look under that, there's another little line. It's like see other used offers from whatever price the lowest one is. To really get the best deal, like if you don't care about fastness of shipping, get the best deal. I would recommend you click on that see other offers, and you're gonna see them. And you see them rated by whether the copy's good, very good. I mean, a lot of these folks, you will see boilerplate conditioning statements. But so what the glitch is that in the past, Amazon weighted that the feature offer by kind of a combination of price and speed of shipment, which frequently and speed of shipment was really heavily weighed. So usually that buy box, if there was a fulfilled by Amazon offer, it would get the buy box. And a lot of people really built their businesses on that. They've also been apparently making changes to their APIs. The software I mentioned earlier, like a lot of people just grow into building apps. Well, those apps use Amazon's APIs, and if Amazon changes their API without informing the developers, then those apps start working in weird ways. And a lot of the hard data that used booksellers, relied on in, deciding whether or not to even buy a book to resell, or deciding what to price it at, that data has become a little less hard and a little more squishy. So just those initial steps of sourcing and listing and pricing books requires even more research and scrutiny, and that's a problem for a lot of. I in my mind, I think like new school booksellers, which are most of your YouTube coaches come from, are that kind of new school. And I think old school, which is more like comic bus bestiary booksellers, kind of folks don't even scan at all, or maybe qualify for that book scouting Jedis. I mean, I think a lot of new booksellers, things are stabilizing now, but for the past couple of weeks, I think a lot of the new school sellers were almost like unable to take action because they're just so worried about the changes and the uncertainty. And beyond that, a lot of those new school booksellers weren't just relying on potentially compromised tools. The loss of the buy box compromises some of the foundational parts of their business models. So yeah, it's really been rough out there the last few weeks, and a lot of the fulfilled by Amazon forums and groups, the mood has been really bleak. And I'm with that group. I mean, we all hope that these are just glitches and the previous functionality be restored. But yet we don't know. And such is the world of the new school bookseller. So to dig into a little bit more, what I understand of the new school booksellers, from watching YouTube videos, is, a lot of that business model is both based on speed and throughput, and that's why a lot of them look to move towards bulk. You just got to feed the beast. I think I mentioned about conditioning. I see it recommended, not to worry about the Amazon recommended conditions where it's unacceptable, which is something that's so waterlogged and covers ripped off that Amazon won't sell it. Use acceptable, which is something that's beat up, but it's readable. Good, very good, like new, and new. And a lot of the coaches just say, rate it as acceptable if it's acceptable. If it's better than acceptable, just call it good and be done. And then as far as condition notes, they'll, to use things like good book, fast Amazon shipping, or access codes, CD, and DVD inserts are not guaranteed with used books, may have notes or highlighting, maybe an ex-library book. And, I mean, that speeds up the listing process, but I can tell you as a bibliophile, as someone who buys books, and has bought expensive books on Amazon. If I'm looking for, not even just a rare book, but just a book that's maybe not uncommon but is pricey, I skip over those books with that description. I'm not going to spend $100 on a book, so I've bought some books on Japanese armor. Right? If I buy a book that I know it's common market price is going to be over $100, $130 for a book on Japanese armor, and the description says access codes, CD or DVD inserts are not guaranteed with used books, may have notes or highlighting, maybe an extra library book. I'm not spending $130 for that book because I don't know what it is. That is a pig in a poke. I have no guarantee this person even looked at the book, right? I mean, do you know if it has a CD? Like, do you know that this is a book that shouldn't have a CD? Like, is it ex-library or not? I'm not opposed to ex-library, but let me know. And so, again, this is where I'm diverging. I mean, if that's your business model and that's your ride. It's not my ride. And while not trying to call anybody wrong, I do want to say why my ride is right for me. I think there are pluses to slowing down your process for processing books, grading them more carefully, and listing them with more detail. So, one plus about using all the available conditions that Amazon has that, to me, was highlighted by the recent debacle with the featured offer, is that, because, when this was going on, a lot of sellers were like talking about diversifying into other media, like DVDs and CDs, even cassette tapes, so that to give your your inventory some stability. If you're using more conditions than just good and acceptable, you're actually diversifying the stock you already have. Instead of having inventory in 2 out of the 5 conditions, you have inventory in 4 out of the 5. And I say that because anecdotally, it's come out that one of the ways they're changing the algorithm that determines who gets a featured offer is they're taking into account the condition more. So you're seeing fulfilled by merchant offers get the buy box because they have a book that's very good or like new. Even though there's a cheaper copy that will ship faster fulfilled by Amazon. And I mean that creates a lot. Oh man! So there's a lot of folks who, in the kind of the new school bookselling, that rely on the difference. But I mean, you can charge a lot more for fulfilled by Amazon. You could when it got the buy box. I mean, I've seen books where the fulfilled by merchant price was like $5 and the fulfilled by Amazon price was $20. That's not rare, or it wasn't. It is now. Now it seems to be weighted more by the condition than just shipping and price. And I mean, I can contribute to those anecdotal reports because I started selling books. I've had 11 books sell in the last 2.5-3 weeks. 10 of those books were rated very good. One was a good volume, but it had I had very detailed condition notes because it was a little unique. So yeah. I also think that slowing down to consider condition and document it with some detail where needed also yields you subtler dividends as a bookseller. This is where you find an author's gift inscription you'd missed. This is when you Google something that's just a little weird and expand your knowledge on a genre, a publisher, an author, a title, a historic event. This is where the doors open. And some of the real magic happens in this industry. Don't overlook it. Don't dread it. I mean, I don't. It's fun. That's my ride. I mean, that's why I talk excitedly about buying books. I just like moving them through and but that's me. That's my ride. But it's that kind of work where you're going to gradually get more confident in dealing with books that don't have ISBNs or UPCs. And if part of your business model is like an essential part of mine, which is you want to do real cherry picking, buying the minimum amount of books for the maximum amount of profit, you need to learn how to spot valuable books that don't have barcodes, don't have ISBNs. One of the biggest drivers of value in books is rarity, and old books are generally going to be rarer. Which leads me to another point of difference that I have with some of the new school booksellers, and that's not listing books as collectible. So beyond your initial 5 categories, you have those same 5 categories in collectible. And collectible is necessarily going to be long tail, but if you're looking to maximize profit per volume, you're going to get into long tail. A $500 book does not sell overnight unless it's a textbook and it's textbook season. But you know, a non-textbook $500 book is something you're going to sit on for a little bit. I mean, now if you think it's something you're going to have to sit on for more than a year, I wouldn't send it to Amazon, because they're going to kill you on the storage fees. Excuse me. But that's a whole different argument. If you think it's something collectible that will sell in, you know, for its big price in less than a year, I mean, there's definitely pros to sending it in. So here's a book that's going out in my latest shipment that I'm listing as collectible like new. Because I mean, this book is in immaculate condition. It's very nice, and it's a very handsome volume. It's not like a first edition; it's a reprinting. So I conditioned this fairly detailed. See if I can pull that up. Oh my goodness. So yeah, this is the last Cabalists of Lisbon. This is the I'll just read this. Collectible like new trade paperback. Previous owner's name on first page. So that's really the only flaw this copy has. Inscription from author on title page. May 15, 2010 for Natalia. I hope you like my book. All the best, Richard Zimler. 2006 reprint. 2006 reprint. 500th Lisbon Massacre Anniversary Edition. Clean Titan Square. So, yeah, that's a book that totally needs to be in collectible edition, or collectible version. You know, this ISBN, I see when new copies pop up. I mean, it's a 19-year-old book. When new copies pop up, or used like new, they'll sell for $50 to $125. And yeah, when the new copies sell, the price of the like new ones goes up. I haven't seen anybody list it collectible, but a gift inscription from the authors definitely puts it into collectible. So yeah, I put it at about $125, and I think it has a good chance of selling that in a year. I mean, I'll look at it 6 months and see what's going on. Might change the price, but yeah. And I mean, I would have missed that if I was just doing good, acceptable, no collectible, not looking closely enough. Or, you know, just open up, see that previous owner's name and being like, hey. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm more interested in optimizing my cherry picking and getting better and better at finding the lemons with the most juice than I am on squeezing the last bit of juice out of bulk. You know, maximizing profit out of volume. And the only way you develop those skills is hands in stacks, having hands on volumes, hands in stacks. And the modern versions of hands in stacks, which is Googling, poring over Keepa graphs, going through eBay sold comps, branching out into Google beyond just using apps for your research, because there's a lot of stuff you won't find in the apps, and especially on older, rarer stuff. So for example, today, just to end off here, I wanted to go through a couple of old pre-barcode, pre-ISBN books in the family collection. and just talk about them. Not well, kind of condition them. Give where I'm currently standing on my price estimates. First one, stated first printing, 1965, in cold blood. Check that out, right? That's gotta be crazy, right? 1965. I mean, that's like, I would almost call that like new, like collectible, like new. I mean, that jacket is so clean, little chip there. So the dust jacket's clipped, so we can't know the pricing information, which is one key point that we use to identify if it's truly a first edition, first printing. But this I/66 marker, I did some Googling, and that is only seen on the true first edition, first printing copies. Random House, New York. First printing. It seems pretty kosher, right? This is worth, a true first edition, first printing. It's worth a couple $100 maybe. It's not worth this. It's actually not worth as much as you might think. I mean, a lot of big books from this era, first edition, first printing, were worth more, because the first edition. I mean, the reason a first edition, first printing is usually more valuable is because frequently they didn't know how successful the book was going to be, and it's a limited print run. So there's just not more. And then the second printing, there's a lot, and then on through the 20th printing or whatever. In Cold Blood, Truman Capote published a lot of the stories initially in magazine. I forget the magazine, but way before the book came out, and then the book collected those and added to it. And those magazine stories were huge hits. So they already knew before publishing that this was going to be a huge hit. So the first edition, first printing was huge. So there's maybe not a lot of copies still existing, but initially there were a lot. So it's not worth as much as you might think starting out. But if we take a closer look, take the dust jacket off, look on the back cover, and you see this little dot. That is an indication that the actual volume itself is a book club edition. Yeah, I mean that's what that means. So, which would have had a very similar but slightly different dust jacket. Wouldn't have had that I/66 in the lower corner there. So what I think this is somebody took a book club edition and they put the dust jacket from what was in fact a true first edition, first printing, and then they probably sold this to the family that we got it from. Got it from a state that had a lot of other really interesting, rare, and valuable books. I think they were probably collectors, and they probably got scammed on that one. And if I was to list that as a true first edition, first printing, I mean, I would be scamming somebody. So I will not do that. I will list it with detailed notes, exactly as I have found it. And it's probably worth $50, maybe. Maybe on eBay, not Amazon. I wouldn't mess with. I'm not. Yeah, because they're stated on the collectible status that you can't do book club editions. So this is. It's an interesting conversation point. Next, we have this humble little volume. Sorry about that. Pardon me. Yeah, so anyway, back to this little guy. There's a joke in our house about how many copies of Beowulf one family needs, um, one person needs. So I've got this one, but I've got Tolkien's translation commentary, the Seamus Heaney, where it's Old English on one side and his translation on the other. That's pretty cool. Ooh, and the cover feels like chainmail. I also have Neil Gaiman's script for that weird animated movie they made. But this is a translator I'd never seen before. Before I found this copy, I had never really heard of. Even after that, I found this, I think, like 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago at Mark Twain library sale. I think it was like 50 cents. It was just in with a bunch of old, like really old books of I can't find any other version of this edition online. Just, they're not there. If there's was a reprint in the 60s. So this is let's go back, sorry. Beowulf, translated into English verse with an introduction, notes, and appendices by D.H. Crawford. Chatto and Windus, London, 1926. So it's 99 years old. Printed in Great Britain. All rights reserved. This nice little frontispiece with onion skin. It's beautiful. For this little dinky book. I found there was another edition in the 60s. This was part of the medieval library, and they reprinted the medieval library in the 60s, and there was a reprint of that. I think I see those going for like $60. I think this I'm hanging on to. I cannot properly value this right now. I mean, I could make a stab, but I've had it long enough that I'm like, no, I'm going to find out what this is really worth. Like, this is, maybe it's a couple hundred, maybe it's more, but I bet it's like a couple hundred. So I'm going to have to learn about like antiquarian book auctions. Maybe I need to start researching, see if I find mentions of it there. That's a whole new. I've not gone into that before. But yeah, well, and that's next steps for me. I think that practicing conditioning books can make you a better book scouter as well as a bookseller. If you ever want to be the book scouting Jedi that I keep quoting Peter Valley on, cherry pick a library sale or a state sale without a scanner. Mindfully conditioning is like, that's your push-ups, that's your exercise, because you're not just processing books physically, through a chute just to feed the beast. You're processing books mentally and experientially. It's hands in stacks, kids. Hands in stacks. Keep those books moving, but pay attention to how they move. I think I've repeated this several times already through these videos. It really excites me is the opportunities. There's magic in conditioning. And just being mindful as you're processing the books. A mindful bookseller is the epitome of the saying, jack of all trades, master of none, oftentimes better than master of one. A mindful bookseller is one who may not have detailed knowledge on a specific topic, but probably has a good idea where to find it. Mindful book selling is the one path I know of where getting reasonably high on your own supply actually is to your betterment, and speeds you along the path. I'm not saying I find most of the strategies in the new booksellers bad. I mean, I'm learning so much from these people. Really, really, that cannot be underestimated. Now, I'll get into that definitely more in a later date. They definitely helped me learn how to get the most juice out of squeeze. But I think that approaching the books with mindfulness as you're listing, and maybe slowing down a little bit, it will help you learn to estimate the juice you're going to get out of a specific squeeze. And in the end, I think it not only makes you look more professional, it actually makes you more professional. And as an idiot who wants to go be like crazy Scooter book scout all over New England, what? Yeah, yeah, maybe you got to try look at least a little bit professional. We shall see. Anyway, that's it for this week's friends. Peace, strength, and courage.